What's in a name? For some of us, it is meaningful to every aspect of our life, can make or break any potential we have in our future. And for some of us, it's just who we are. I've been lucky enough to know Devon Allman for close to 8 years. He's an internationally touring artist who's been creating original material for close to 27 years. And you would think that being the son of Greg Allman, that he would learn how to tour on the road from his dad, learn how to construct a song from his dad. But as you're going to learn from this episode, he didn't meet his dad until he was well into his teens, and by then, the music had already found him. It didn't take much time at all for Devon Allman to start making a name for himself, and this is Devon Allman.
I remember when I moved here for the first time, and I was like, oh, I didn't know anybody. I was a junior in high school, and I was flipping through the dial like, yeah, what kind of crappy stations do they have? And I hit, they were playing Beautiful Girls by Van Halen. And I was a huge Van Halen freak. And I was like, man, everything got cool. Like, I literally, I have a radio station I can listen to. So my relationship with KC goes back to 1988. Yeah. I fell in love with vinyl records when I was 5 years old. Just they were just so mystical, spinning, and just these sounds, you know. When I was 9 years old, I went to my first concert. It was Cheap Trick. Rick Nielsen came out with a 5-neck, and I was like, I want to do that right now. And then I started to play guitar at 13. I started to play I think my first show was in like a basement party when I lived in Cleveland, Ohio, when I was a freshman. And all of a sudden girls were like, hey, you know, and they were not like that before. So that was like, But also, I mean, just music, you know, I didn't grow up with, you know, backstage or on the tour bus or with the Allman Brothers or with my dad. I actually met him for the first time here in St. Louis in the parking lot of the Fox Theater when I was 16 years old. So I got to find music all on my own, which is really cool. I'm glad it worked out that way. And then blues just kind of happened. I was into Hendrix, and I was in a really weird phase when I was 15, and I was living in Alabama at that time. I've lived everywhere. And I was into The Cure and the Smiths and the Clash and a lot of like alternative and punk, but I was really into Hendrix, and I heard Red House. And I was like, that's totally different than anything else. You know, what is that? It was more mysterious, it was sexier, it was slinkier. And so I started reading up on Hendrix, and I found out that he was into, you know, Buddy Guy and B.B. King and Son House, and so that was my doorway into the blues. It wasn't being an Allman at all. You know, I got to find the blues like any other guitar player finds the blues, which is cool. I put Honey Tribe together in '99, and that was a band with George Patsos and Marco and Dave Cowles and Jack Kirkner. And we were a full band, and my son was born, and I was like, I need to just put the brakes on this. I don't want to tour. I don't want to make records right now. I want to be a dad. And so when I put the brakes on Honey Tribe, I just went out and played solo acoustic at night. Like I would watch him during the day and then play solo acoustic at night. So it was really, that was kind of all I had. I couldn't really keep a band together because I couldn't really promise anything, or, you know. So when my thought process was when he would go off to kindergarten, I would jump back out there and start making records and touring, and it's exactly what I did. And so I haven't really done the solo acoustic thing in a while. I had the show worked up to a pretty fun little thing there for a bit in Soulard, but I've been touring for 10 years with a band, and I much prefer it. There's more dynamics. It's a thicker sound. I love playing with people. You know, when you're just like on your own, I mean, you screw it up. It's all you. There's nobody to kind of cover your ass. The idea behind Friday Night Blues was that they had a really vibey, cool room here in St. Charles. And, you know, it's called the Bottleneck Blues Bar. It's inside the Ameristar. But on Friday nights, they were doing cover bands and stuff. They were having fun, but there wasn't enough blues going on. So they wanted a bona fide weekly residency type of gig that really featured blues, and not just the local bands, but also the national bands. So we're just trying to kind of culture, you know, the suburbs a little bit and give them some good vibes, you know, and it's been great so far. So I'm really grateful for the co-op. The way I've always seen it is music and paintings and poetry and film and theater and all of the arts really are the balance point for how crazy and dark and twisted the world can get. You really have to, you have to be a warrior for the good. You know, people need to feel good. They need to come to a show and forget everything, the horrible things in the news or their personal troubles, and rock out for a couple hours and just feel good. And that is really the only reason I do this. I like to make people feel good for a bit.
Rain and fire, cross the ocean, another madman done struck again. Rain and fire, cross that ocean, another madman done struck again. Sit down here, fallout shelter, paint my walls twice a week. Sit down here, fallout shelter, think about the slave.